But check out this first story. This one hits close to home. Citing threats, Mayor Lori Lightfoot defends ban on protesters on her block. I have a right to make sure that my home is secure. Now, this story is particularly funny because doesn't everybody have a right to make sure their home is secure?
They do.
And I decided to do a little digging, not particularly difficult. And over on the NRA website, they actually have an article they wrote from just 3 days ago, Chicago's Mayor Lightfoot hammering away at the Second Amendment. I find this particularly hilarious. At a time when she's telling you don't have a right to protect yourself, we got to get the guns off the street. And she literally, this is amazing. This is amazing. She says that she says the federal government was uniquely qualified to help with Chicago's gun problem by enacting common sense gun control. Yet when Donald Trump offers actual resources, I get it. She's probably talking about Congress. But when Trump comes out and says, I can help with the gun violence, she says, no. I want the federal government to do something like enacting gun control. Yeah, she doesn't want help. She wants her political agenda.
Yep.
And this has been Chicago as long as I can remember. That I don't know how true this is because it was something I heard when I was a kid from my dad. The local politicians they either have armed security or they're armed themselves. They could get guns when no one else could. Well, there was like a Supreme Court ruling forcing all these states to recognize you can't do this. You can't ban these weapons. Chicago was forced to actually allow people to carry weapons. In response, all of these businesses started putting up no guns allowed on the doors of all of the buildings everywhere. So, we look at this story, and I'll start reading in a second, but this is a perfect example of using city resources to guard her home while telling everyone else no guns for you. And then what happens? Chicago is all the people who are dying to gun crime. I mean, these are the people who are committing this. They're criminals.
There are guns in Chicago, for sure.
There's a lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
So you've got these criminals that are going around not caring about the law, killing people, and regular citizens are the ones who are punished because of it.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Sounds Chicago. Let's read the story. They say, Mayor Lori Lightfoot defended the Chicago Police Department's ban on protesters being able to demonstrate on the block where she lives, telling reporters Thursday that she and her family at times require heightened security because of threats she receives daily. Lightfoot refused to elaborate on the specific threats, but said she receives them daily against herself, her wife, and her home. Comparisons to how the police department has protected previous mayors' homes, such as Rahm Emanuel's Ravenswood residence, are unfair because, quote, this is a different time like no other, Lightfoot told reporters. I think that residents of the city understanding the nature of the threats that we are receiving on a daily basis, understand I have a right to make sure that my home is secure, Lightfoot said. Lightfoot and Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown were asked at an unrelated news conference about a Tribune report noting police have banned protesters from demonstrating on her block in the Logan Square neighborhood, ordering officers to arrest anyone who refuses to leave. The directive surfaced in a July email from then Shakespeare District Commander Melvin Roman to officers under his command. It did not distinguish between the peaceful protesters Lightfoot regularly says she supports and those who might intend to be destructive, but ordered that after a warning is given to demonstrators, it should be locked down. I absolutely love this because she's talking about how she gets death threats. Yeah, okay. If you get threats and you want to have a security guard, I get it. You want to have one patrol car out in front of your house? That I understand. We do that for witnesses. You want to have the cops block off your street and arrest anyone who doesn't leave, even peaceful demonstrators? You're a hypocrite of the highest order.
Yeah. I can't even wrap my head around how hypocritical she's being. Even from going to get a haircut at the beginning of this, I started to think, wow, this lady really does not believe a single word she says. And she absolutely does not.
That's all of them, isn't it? At this point, I have no faith that any of them actually believe what they're telling us.
It is, but she's especially egregious about this. I feel like she does not care. I don't know why not.
I think because there were a bunch of other governors and mayors who went out and got haircuts.
Yeah.
And I think she was the first. I don't know, because I think Whitmer did it. Mm-hmm. These people, man, they're how do you describe them? Fascistic despots. Don't give these people power anymore. I mean, this is insane to me. Activists and police sources could not cite instances when the city repeatedly locked down her predecessor Emanuel's block against protesters. The Kenwood block, where former President Barack Obama lived with his family when his primary residence was in Chicago, was shut down for access only by residents after his election. But Lightfoot said such comparisons don't make any sense after Brown referenced the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, as well as civil unrest that may have flared since the George Floyd killing at the hands of Minneapolis police. I'm not going to make any excuses for the fact that given the threats I have personally received, given that, I get it. I make no apologies whatsoever for this. Doesn't she sound just like one of these Twitter whiny SJWs?
She absolutely does.
Yeah, like, well, your words are speech, so you should be banned. I'm allowed to say whatever I want because I'm fighting for justice. See, when it's me, it's different. When it was those other guys that were actually not still not particularly good, like Rahm Emanuel.
Right.
It's these people who are running are probably the worst I've ever seen in terms of saying whatever they have to say to get whatever they want.
Do you think that's the case, or do you think that the coronavirus is just bringing this out? Because I'm starting to think it's the latter. I think that because I've thought for a long time that any kind of crisis like this will lend itself to fascistic leaders who really want to capitalize on it.
But Trump's not doing it.
He's not. It's true.
And they're complaining about it. Yeah. So I guess that shows I feel like it's kind of beating a dead horse to say, but they project.
Oh, absolutely.
They're the racists. There's the despots. And they're pointing the finger at Trump and the Republicans and screeching while we literally, look at this article. What journalists could deny this? The Beltway SJW left, I guess, that hate Trump. I'm reading a Chicago Tribune. This is like this is the premier Chicago news outlet. The Tribune is famous, saying straight up, the mayor I have a right to make sure my home is secure. I mean, you do. And so do the rest of us. So here's what I wanted to do. When I saw that she was doing this, I know that Chicago is extremely restrictive. Illinois is extremely restrictive. Yeah. I said, who better than to tell me about the laws in Illinois and Chicago than the NRA? Never been the biggest fan of the NRA, but I'll state it straight up. I became a member of the NRA and another gun rights advocacy group because now I own weapons, because I don't believe that I can trust these people to take care of me. I don't believe that the police have no disrespect to the police in general. But when someone tried breaking in here, one of the cops straight up said, if it were me, I'd answer the door with a shotgun.
Of course.
And I'm like, I don't know if you can do that in New Jersey, because this is like a semi-castle doctrine state. My understanding is that in Jersey, you have to flee. Yeah. And if you can't flee, then you can defend yourself, which is kind of just like normal self-defense, I guess.
Yeah, I
guess. But there are some states that have nothing. Yeah. Like there's no laws at all. I guess it just falls to self-defense. But anyway, so I go to the NRA website, and instead of finding, they do have the map of the country and like the different gun laws. Quite literally, one of the most recent articles is that Mayor Lightfoot is hammering away at the Second Amendment. To me, that's fascinating. I don't think this is whatever it is they're doing. It's not going to stop. Taking away weapons from law-abiding citizens is not going to stop crime, and I think that's completely obvious.
Right.
And I got to admit too, my opinion on two-way veered straight right after starting with COVID and then the riots. It started with the guy trying to break in.
Yep.
And then somebody made a meme, and it was you guys have probably seen the meme of the two dogs. One's super ripped and one's all whiny and scrawny.
Yeah.
And then it was like Tim Pool in 2019, and it was a scrawny little sad dog saying, "Help me, please! Someone's trying to break into my house." Or it was like, "Someone's trying to break into my house. Help!" And then the next one was all ripped with a bunch of guns, and it said Tim Pool 2020. If you vote for this, you get what you deserve. I'm like, well, you know what, man? Talk about a wake-up call. Someone tries to break in, mass riots, pandemic, and what am I supposed to do or say, right?
Well, and it's not just you, because we've talked about this a few times because people are buying it up. And I think it was Austin Peterson who was saying you're 4 months too late to be picky in any way about the kind of weaponry you get.
Ammo shortage.
Yeah, dude.
Gun shortage.
Yeah, makers are running out.
The local gun shop near us, they're stripped clean. They put a bunch of squirt guns in their display case. It's actually really funny. It's just empty. It's all empty. And I was talking to them because I had a bunch of recommendations for, really good self-defense weapons, handguns and stuff. They were sold out.
Yeah.
I think they had, I'm not a gun person, so forgive me if I get this wrong, 1911, a couple of those. Mm-hmm. Is that what it's called?
I think so.
And then they had like a really massive revolver.
Yeah.
But that was basically that, barely any. And now I'm reading ammo shortages and all this stuff, but I'm sure people outside of Chicago are going about getting legal weapons.
Yeah.
Mayor Lightfoot, however, doesn't like the fact they have gun violence. There's been a big uptick in crime in all these major cities, which most of you know by now, and she's blaming it on the massive surge of gun purchases.
It's been interesting to watch all the articles talk about, they make the direct link between the increased number of guns being purchased and the increasing amount of gun crime. And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
this is faulty. This is incorrect.
Because I'm sure it's George, who's 45 and concerned about his 3 kids and his wife.
Right.
And they're living just, on the outskirts of the city, so they went to get personal protection. And that's the cause of criminals shooting people in New York City.
That was what made George do it. He just went absolutely insane the second he bought that weapon to defend his home and his wife.
I think this is how many of these people like Lightfoot must think, that a sane, rational person, George is a plumber, and he comes home from work one day and he sees the news, so he goes to buy a gun. Then as soon as his hand grips as soon as he picks it up, just all of a sudden he starts shaking, his eyes glow.
Yes.
And then he just goes on a rampage. Like, that's what they think is happening.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of gun advocates who know all this stuff way better than I do, but especially now, because with the increase in crime, with the massive surge of sales, I'm certainly being thrown straight into the deep end.
Yep.
Cold water, just right in. But it's not legal gun owners that are doing anything.
And Lori Lightfoot knows that's not the case. She knows people don't go crazy as soon as they purchase a weapon. You know how I know she knows this? Because she's hired a whole bunch of them to surround her house and to keep her safe.
That's what she
literally
does.
their role. It's shockingly hypocritical.
I love how she says that she wants the federal government. I mean, it's the gist of the story from the NRA. They say Mayor Lori Lightfoot has consistently demanded more gun control as the answer to the epidemic of violence that her city is experiencing. In an interview on July 18th, for example, the mayor was clear. The only way we're going to really get at the problem in a profound way is to have federal laws in place that require background checks and strengthen the penalties for people who pick up guns and wreak havoc in our communities. Okay, I went to go buy a gun.
Yep.
It took me like a month.
Yep.
And I wouldn't call it hard. I would call it tedious. Menial? Is that the right word?
Yeah. Lots
Tedious?
of busy work.
A lot of busy work, paperwork, bouncing back and forth. And then there were some, holdups. And apparently I'm on some delayed list or something.
Yeah.
It was really funny. I don't know if I care a whole lot. Recently, James O'Keefe, who many of you may be familiar with from Project Veritas, he tried to go buy a gun. Turns out he was on an FBI list, falsely, So he filed a lawsuit. He won. Congratulations to James. He can now go buy a weapon. I found out it takes me like 5 days to get cleared. And the shop told me that it's always delayed, my background check. And I was like, I don't know if I care. Like,
that is weird, though.
I'll buy it. I can wait 5 days. I'm not freaking out. But it is weird. And when I see things like this, I'm like, I'm not entirely sure what she's talking about background checks, because I had to go. It was crazy filling out all these forms for the federal government, not just the state. I had to fill out this form for the feds or whatever.
Yeah, you basically have to do everything twice, right?
Yeah. Well, because New Jersey's nuts.
Oh, yes.
I guess they call New Jersey one of the evil 7 or something.
Yeah, it's not good. It's one of the worst states for this.
Oh, definitely.
And I actually filled out the same paperwork you did, and they never got back to me.
Wait,
I went
what?
and I was fingerprinted and everything, and I know I'm from out of state. My ID was from out of state. No one gave me any static about it at the time. They just never got back to me. So I
Whoa.
actually need to follow up with them.
Yeah, you
because
should
they
do
just
that.
kind of let it fall into a black
Well,
hole.
It's really cool because I got my, what is it, the federal license or whatever.
yeah.
There's so many people in the chat who are probably like, Tim, this is what it's called. And I'm like, I don't know.
It's all right.
But I went and bought a gun.
Yes.
A bunch of them, actually.
We are equipped.
Yeah, we are. And so anyway, back to the story is what I love. She's talking about the federal government needing to enact these gun laws, when in reality, the problem is criminals who are already breaking the law. Like you have laws in Chicago. You have criminals who have broken the law in Chicago. Making more laws won't change the fact these people have already broken the law. I don't understand what she's trying to say. It just makes no sense. Except for the fact that she's, look, these people in Chicago are rather despotic. I love that word, by the way.
I do too.
Despotism.
It's very fitting for this year.
Yeah, despotic. So this is, I love to go back to this one.
Oh, man.
Mayor Lori Lightfoot, I don't need leadership lessons from Donald Trump. Apparently you do.
Lie detector test proved that was false.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I think she actually does. Take a look. This is from the Situation Room. There she is. Got a little Biden for president behind her. Well, I'm glad to see that she's supporting that. She says that's just ridiculous, hyperbolic rhetoric. He is at a race to the bottom. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot reacts to President Trump using the line "blood-stained sidewalks of Chicago" on the campaign trail. What we have here is a fundamentally failed leadership on every major issue. I'm sorry, man. No. It just,
Is she referring to her leadership or his?
I hope she's referring to herself.
Yeah, that would be surprisingly self-reflective.
The other night, from most of you who caught the show the other night, we had Jack Murphy on.
Yeah.
And Jack's from Chicago.
I did not realize that about him
neither
until
did
later.
I forgot. I'm pretty sure he told me before, and a bunch of people here after the show are all from Chicago.
Yeah.
And it was really funny how all of us are no longer in Chicago.
Indeed.
And I know it's not for all the same reasons, but I mean, for me, and I'm pretty sure at least one or two other people, look, the food's fantastic.
Right.
One thing Chicago does right, you look at what does LA do? They got Hollywood, they got acting and stuff. New York, I guess they got finance. Chicago's got food.
Yeah.
They got hot dogs, they got Italian beef, they got giardiniera deep dish pizza, cheesecake, Garrett's popcorn.
American cuisine.
Yeah, but the violence is too much.
Yeah.
I was in South Korea once, and this is a really funny story. I'm from Chicago.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it because I bring it up all the time.
Huh.
Yes, that's right. I'm a mixed race high school dropout from the south side of Chicago. You've heard that one once or twice.
Yep.
And I remember talking to some people from South Africa who were in South Korea. They left. And they told me it's not as bad as everyone thinks in South Africa. I've only been carjacked like 5 or 6 times.
Whoa.
I was like, wait, what?
Whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's what you're used to.
I'll count my lucky stars that that's not my experience in Chicago. But I've had people who have been, I know people who have, I know a lot of people died. Maybe not a lot, maybe a handful in Chicago, people I grew up with. And, more like friends of friends. And then I'll hear these stories and like, man, did you hear? Yeah. It's just senseless gun violence for sure. But these are people who are already breaking the law in a city with, the cops got a bad reputation. They do.
They have some corruption.
Yeah.
To put it mildly.
Yeah, some crazy stuff. And I think Chicago only ever elects corrupt politicians.
Why is that, do you think?
I don't know, man. A legacy of like Al Capone or something
Maybe
like that.
so, yeah. They're trying to carry that on.
Maybe, in Brazil, they did this thing called pacification to the favelas. The favelas are shanty towns. Mm-hmm. And so there's a really interesting thing about Brazil. And this is what they told me when I was down there. The rich people lived by the beach. And so the poor people were forced to climb the hills. Oh. Whereas in many other places, living on the hill is for the rich people. It's fortified, it's safe, you can see everything. But, living by the port and being on the beach, I guess when you're in, Copacabana or something, it's preferable. So you end up with these shanty towns where people are literally building on top of each other. And eventually what happens is, because it's kind of crazy, somebody would build a house and then someone would walk through that house to build a house on top of their house. That's how crazy it is. Oof. Yeah, sometimes it rains and the houses just wash away.
Oh my gosh.
But they've been trying to fix them, and they call it pacification or reclamation, because they've just kind of let them do whatever they want. They've formed their own leadership, and so they had these different groups. I think I was corrected the last time I talked about the BOPE. This is like a tactical SWAT squad. Like, these are the guys with the skull balaclavas going in and pushing out the gangs.
Are they the ones that use the live ammo?
I believe, they're all using live ammo.
Wow.
I bring them up not to suggest we do anything like that. Heavens no. But it's interesting how Chicago has done nothing in all of this time to literally nothing. It's like, you don't got to go like Brazil, marching in the stormtroopers with live ammo and rifles around corners with a special training. You send in some cops and you stand in some street corners and you talk to the community leaders. You have some meetings. You ask them, what they think is appropriate. But for whatever reason, maybe Chicago does that. Maybe they do. I don't know. I did an interview with this woman who said the problem they have is illegal guns, and it's difficult for them to legally own guns. And this was really interesting. This was a black woman who was advocating for gun rights in the black community because she felt legal gun ownership would protect people from random gun violence. And that was a really interesting take coming from the city. Yeah.
Well, I think I have more respect for the alderman in Chicago than I do for like Mayor Lightfoot. I think that she's a little bit crazy, but the aldermen seem to be like on the ground with the people in the communities. Was that kind of your experience?
I mean, I never met my alderman or whatever.
Never really met him. Because I remember when this first went down, the aldermen were like beside themselves. They were talking to Lori Lightfoot. They were cussing her out on these Zoom calls. And I was like, you tell her, because
the audio leaked.
Yeah, someone needs to talk about this. And they were like doing it.
It's because she doesn't care, in my opinion, about anyone in that city.
But-
I really don't. I mean, look at this. This is the story we were referencing earlier. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot defends hairstylist visit amid coronavirus outbreak. I'm the public face of this city. I'm on national media and I'm out in the public eye, Mayor Lori Lightfoot said. I don't care.
I have a point to make about Lori Lightfoot's hair, and it's not going to be very complimentary. Her hair needs a little more than a hairstyling, I'm afraid. I don't know. I'm sorry, lady. I don't have the greatest hair either, but going out for a hairstyling in the middle of a pandemic after you told everyone else not to do it is just disgusting, honestly. Like, give me a break.
She's all in all just kind of a bad person, I guess.
Yeah, I'm starting to think so.
But hold on. Hold on. To be fair, I can throw it to New York City.
Oh, okay.
Mayor de Blasio's wife is branded a disgrace for having a staff of 14, including a $70,000 videographer, who filmed her baking cookies while crime soars after $1 billion NYPD cuts and trash piles up on the streets as 22,000 city job face the chop.
I love their headlines.
Oh, that's the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
But so this is the question I had for you, because I've heard people talking about this. I was like, you know what? My initial assumption, Bill de Blasio's rich, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's a landlord. He owns multiple properties or something. He gets like $8,000 a month in rent.
Yeah.
I don't know how rich he is, but I was like, so what? So he hired a bunch of people for his wife?
Yeah, so I looked this up, and this is city money. They're spending over $1 million a year for her little staff.
Oh, despotism.
Yeah, more despotism. So it's really nice. So I'm glad that they're giving Lori Lightfoot some competition, but this is not really what I wanted.
So is Garcetti.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Man, I had a friend hit me up that he left San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I asked him, what's going on? Industry's gone. The city is just wasted, man. So I think it's funny when people say it's not an issue of the Democrats. It's that bigger cities tend to be run by Democrats. And I'm like, okay, how does that change what I said?
No, that changes nothing.
Right. And the citation I have to use is San Diego.
Yeah.
So I ended up looking into Ballotpedia. It's this excellent website that tracks, electoral politics and stuff. I was looking at the top the top cities for crime and the top cities per capita. And I think per capita, I think there's like one Republican city. I could be wrong. I'm not sure if it's per capita or not, but you're basically not going to find Republican cities that are managed this way.
Yeah, as I recall, there were 2 Republican cities and then 1 independent-run city that were kind of on the level of any of these Democratic cities. And I was like, there must just be a difference in the way Republicans manage things, because this isn't the same. It's not on the same level.
I don't understand how people stand for this. I really don't get it. I mean, to be fair, I'm leaving. Like we're packing up shop. I got great news, everybody. The upgrade is happening.
Good
We
news.
finally, landed this deal, and now we're good to go. But you know what? I am leaving, which means what may happen in cities like New York, where everyone's already fled, and places like Chicago, where people have long fled. The only people left are the people who like the status quo, and the status quo is violence and corruption. So you look at New York City, and the middle class and upper class people are gone. Mm-hmm. And now all that's left are people who just vote for the corrupt government officials. Chicago, with all the violence, I left a long time ago. Maybe the problem is people like me refusing to stay and vote these people out.
Yeah, sorry.
When I leave Chicago, then I'm not there to say no. When I leave, New Jersey now, I'm not going to be here saying no to Governor Phil Murphy.
Yeah.
Is that his name? Murphy?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because I was watching Will Witt, because he lives in California. I read one of his tweets, and he said, I am staying here so that I can make a positive change here. And I was like, you know what? That's really brave. I can appreciate that. If you have a platform and if you have a way to make a change where you live, maybe that's the right approach. I don't know. And I encourage people to get out of the big cities, but at the same time, it's like, maybe there's something to staying and trying to make a positive difference.
You turned red again.
Did I? Oh, tomato lady? Oh, nice.
We fixed the camera.
We did, I swear.
Whatever. It
Oh,
happens.
it's all
I don't know.
good.
We're going to have to fix the camera
just
again.
naturally
So
red.
you guys who are watching, you get to see Tomato Face Lydia.
Tomato lady.
So I think what all of this is, there's an overlap here. We have another story that I want to get into, because this also has to do with schools, and then we can segue into schools. But what gets a lot of these people elected? They whisper everything you want to hear into your ears. They tell you all of these great things about diversity and inclusion, social justice. We're here for you. And you know what's crazy is that once you give someone something, it's impossible to take away.
Oh, yeah.
So you have people who become gradually more dependent. They become dependent on the system. So I've been a big fan of social programs, government social programs, 100%. However, we do them wrong.
Oh, yeah.
The way I've always described it is, at some point, something happened where the analogy is you got a cut on your arm. And so what do? Well, you clean it. You put a Band-Aid on it. Then eventually you take the Band-Aid off, you clean it again, and you put a Band-Aid back on it. So you got to keep checking on it, removing the Band-Aid, cleaning it, see if it works, and then trying to get it to heal again. What we do in these cities is we just keep slapping more Band-Aids on top of a festering gangrenous wound as it spreads and gets worse. Right.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
what should we do instead? See, my issue was that I feel like a lot of the stuff was done at the federal level when it shouldn't have been. And I think Lori Lightfoot is completely wrong. I don't think that gun control like this in her own little tiny city should be legislated at the federal level.
Tiny city?
It's you know what I mean. It's not the United States of America.
Right.
She's a little bit. I feel like she's just pushing her own agenda because she is much better suited to talk to the people in her city about making positive changes to reduce gun violence.
No, what I see this as is somebody who is like, I want to have power.
Yep.
And what do I need to say to get it? Unfortunately, like I mentioned, people like me would leave. When I see, look, what is it? Like 3 of the past governors of Illinois went to prison. Some stupid number.
Yeah.
And then I remember I was telling the story. I think I was telling the story the other day about these politicians in Chicago. This guy who was trying to manipulate me or use me or something for his real estate development. I don't know. They were floating this idea that I would run for alderman in a hipster area as a young skateboarder who could attract all these young people. It was just floated to me, and I was told by my family, all of the aldermen are in prison for corruption.
Whoa.
Like don't get involved in Chicago politics.
Then I have the completely wrong impression of Chicago aldermen because the ones that I heard, the loudest ones I've heard were just yelling at Mayor Lightfoot, and they're like, "You're doing this all wrong."
I like that they yell at Lightfoot.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was this one guy, I forgot his name, but it was a leaked audio recording, a phone call where he was like, she was cussing at him, and he was like, "Why are you cussing at me? I'm telling you, you're doing it wrong." Blah blah blah. It was about the rioters. They raise the bridges. The rioters, flood into the neighborhoods. And he's like, keep them downtown. Look, if it's like you send them into neighborhoods, they go and smash up residential properties. That's where people live. It's like, I get it's bad no matter what they do with vandalism. Like no matter what they're breaking, it's bad. But wouldn't they be better off downtown?
Yeah.
Not for her financial interests.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So here's what I see. I see a bunch of people who have been empowered. And this is probably why I think it's connected very much so to the intersectionalist stuff. It's almost the same thing. Go to somebody who's not a billionaire and say, it's not your fault. You should be rich. And they go, you're right, because I'm special. That's right, you are. It's patriarchy. In fact, it's cis heteronormative. I'm missing one.
Racist, misogynist.
Cis heteronormative patriarchy.
Yeah, something like that.
Is that? I'm missing one of their words. I don't know. Whatever. The point is, it's really easy to go to someone and say it's not your fault. It's everyone else's fault.
Yeah.
And it's really easy for us to fall back and just accept that because it's an easy out. I think that's what cities have been breeding, because they keep promising people things to get elected, and they drive down the path of, we're going to give you more stuff. It's going to come from someone else. And then you end up with socialism, and then the system collapses because nobody's making stuff. And then you start over because after the system collapses, you go into, I don't even want to call it laissez-faire capitalism because it's not really. If you build up a capitalist system, it can function. I'm not an absolute fan. I think you need regulations and stuff just for health and environmentalist stuff. But after Ukraine's a really great example. After the fall of communism, just a bunch of guys with guns shut up and took everything.
Yeah.
And so now you have oligarchs.
Well, that sounds not preferable.
Definitely not preferable. So I think unless something changes, unless people in cities have, I guess, a reckoning, a wake-up call, it will just keep going down this path. But maybe what we see with Lori Lightfoot is exactly the system in, as it works. It's going to rebound.
Yep.
Maybe there are going to be people in Chicago who always vote Democrat, who now see this woman using police as a private security, I mean, listen, banning protests in front of her house is a constitutional violation. This is the feds. There could be a DOJ probe of like 1A violations or something like that, I'd imagine. I don't know how it works, whatever. But I could imagine they could do something.
Yeah, because she literally says she is not discriminating between peaceful protesters and rioters. So
Well,
that,
I don't know if she said that. She's just not saying.
She said she doesn't care. She was saying she doesn't care. If you're told to disperse and you don't,
Right,
you're getting
right.
rounded up and arrested.
Yeah.
To me, that sounds like a 1A violation in the making. Seriously,
I think she literally just violated 1A.
Yeah, I don't think she cares.
The threat alone could deter someone from speaking their mind.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe the people of Chicago are going to see her romping about, doing whatever she wants, failing, and be like, that's it. We're done. And we could see what happened in the UK. Maybe the people of these big cities vote red and just say enough. That's what I mean. You look at the DNC, right? I think right now the DNC is happening, and you guys are here because you guys are awesome, and the DNC is
they're smart,
awful.
Yep.
Yeah, but I guess Biden's going to do his speech or something. But they simultaneously call Antifa peaceful protesters, and then they say the Pledge of Allegiance. It's to me, it's just completely hypocritical. It's nonsense. It's nonsensical. They have no platform.
Yeah.
They're trying to pander where they think the audience lies. So when it comes to the national media that tends to be biased towards Antifa, they say peaceful protester a million times. But then when they're doing the DNC, which is going to be targeting mom and pops in the suburbs, they say, I pledge allegiance to the flag. And they said under God.
Whoa.
Yes, they did.
Oh, my goodness.
That surprised me, man.
Yeah. Do you remember when Andrew Cuomo was like, America's never great? He's in there in the DNC talking about how wonderful America is and how we've got to build back better.
Build back better.
What are you building back from if you don't think that America was ever great? What are you going with there?
Well, they destroyed the cities, so they want to build them back better, right?
Oh, okay. So it's their own destruction that they're, okay.
I think Build Back Better is an admission of guilt.
I think so.
Think about it. We've seen New York City destroyed. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the mayor's wife has this really expensive staff filming her bake cookies. It's the most ridiculous and corrupt thing I've ever seen.
French Revolution, man.
Not the most corrupt thing I've ever seen, but it's pretty corrupt. And he's talking about how he wants to buy up all these buildings and turn them into affordable housing. Yeah, he wants to build back better.
Oh yeah, I got it.
In his mind.
Okay, yeah.
In his mind.
I'm tracking.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify, and we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.